Yo, yo, yo. What's good with it? It's the homie MACK. Music, art, culture, knowledge. Reporting live from the Dogon. Each one teach one. Each one teach one. Peace and love to all. Yeah, it's a Monday. This is another session of MACK Minutes. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I appreciate everybody that's been supporting the movement. Everybody who is subscribed to the YouTube channel, everybody who's been following the movement on Instagram at MacTV_82. I'm not gonna keep y'all. This is gonna be a pretty condensed version of Mac Minutes, but you know they are minutes, so you know they're not especially long, but they are replete with information. That's the goal. To give you guys information, something to ponder over, you know, but not hold you for too long. Because we know that people's attention span is nil, zero. But not y'all. Y'all are an informed group of people who make in-depth analysis and can pay attention. Well, so with that being said, this session of Mac Minutes will be entitled "The Nigga Experiment." Woo, the nigga experiment. Mac, what are you talking about? The inspiration behind this actually comes from Nipsey Hussle. R.I.P. Nipsey Hussle. We know his story. Coming up in the Crenshaw district, Crenshaw, Slauson, Bryanhurst. The 60s, everybody, you know, South Central. You know, we know about his come up, and he would always talk about feeling like he was in a maze, or feeling like, you know, he didn't necessarily. His social dynamics were handed to him, and his goal was to shift these social dynamics and come up out of that. And in the process of him coming up out of it, he wanted to share information with his kinfolk, with his brothers and sisters, the residents of South Central, and furthermore that dynamic that he inculcated into them, that it would spread. It would spread across the country, spread across the globe. I can't say enough about Nip. He definitely transitioned the culture from which he came. He came up out of it, you know. They always say that a lot of times people have a very animalistic nature, and that very few of us are actually human. By that meaning, someone who's human is civil, is not stuck on survival mode, but is civil and is able to interact with others. And not in a parasitic way, in a way that is mutually beneficial. So yeah, but let's get to it. My thing is, essentially, the hood as we know it, America as we know it, is a criminogenic society. So you may ask, Maurice, Mac, what is a criminogenic society? I never even heard of that term. A criminogenic society, in essence, is a society that not only produces crime, creates the atmosphere for crime, it benefits from said crime. We all know that, you know, for example, you know, Maurice, what you talking? Mac, what you talking about? For example, we know that when brothers get incarcerated, well, first of all, a lot of brothers get pushed into criminality. It could be, somebody had said crime, within a capitalist infrastructure, crime is a rational response to poverty. You got to get it. So basically, you know, you may be going without, you may need certain things, or you may want protection. So the brother that comes up in that, he might join a gang, and in the process of him joining the gang, he commits a criminal act, gets incarcerated, gets a felony. Upon his release, what happens? A lot of times, if you fill out a job application and you tell somebody, "Look, I'm a felon, I'm an ex-con," they'll walk you right out the door. So what happens? You still have, you know, what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You still have things you need to do just to pretty much just to facilitate your living, you know. And if you don't have a legal means by which to do it, you're going to resort to criminality. So what does that produce? It produces recidivism. Recidivism meaning pretty much a rate, or the reality. Recidivism is the concept of someone being released from incarceration and then going right back inside after they've been released, or doing pretty much going back to square one, committing a crime after they're released and going back to jail or going back to prison. That is recidivism. But yeah, this all leads me to there's a man named Skinner, B.F. Skinner. He was in let me see, let me check my notes. Yeah, his name was B.F. Skinner. He was an American psychologist. He was a inventor, author, a behaviorist. He came up with this concept called the Skinner box. And basically, we all know that our behaviors are usually a response to consequences, be it good or bad. For example, he basically made this box with levers in it, and he would put hungry rats in it. And the rat's behavior would basically be, it's called operant conditioning, which was based off a system of rewards and punishment. So basically these rats, they would pull on the levers, and if they did what they were supposed to do, they would get fed. If they didn't do what they were supposed to do, they wouldn't get fed. And they starve. So this operant conditioning essentially it influenced their behavior and the way that they functioned within the box. I make a parallel between Skinner box and the hood in the sense of, you know, when you're dealing with operant conditioning in context of Skinner box, your paradigm, your behavior is influenced by things outside of your control, or things that you have, or your control is very limited. I look at the hood as a Skinner box. We don't own anything. The system is more. The system itself is set up more around punishment. What's the punishment for criminality? Jail, incarceration, death, even. Let me see. But let me get a little bit deeper into operant conditioning, the technical definition. Skinner believed that we both predict and control behavior. Thus, by manipulating the environment, you can manipulate behavior. B.F. Skinner defined a learning process in which the consequences which follow a response determine whether the behavior will be repeated. Behavior will likely be repeated which has been reinforced, and tend not to be repeated with punishment. Okay, but the thing is, a lot of times I make that parallel between the hood and Skinner box in the sense of, again, we don't own anything, and a lot of times, even if you're so conditioned and you're spending so much time trying to get out of your situation. What do we call them? You're taking penitentiary chances. You know you can get punished. You know you can get punished, but you're in such dire straits, you're going to do what you have to do to survive. So it creates, and you could blame, I guess, to an extent, they call it criminogenic capitalism, where we essentially create the atmosphere for crime. Specifically, there was a Marxist, I can't remember his name, he was a professor. He would say how one of the things that we do in this country, within this capitalist construct, we sell images of stuff that people really don't need. A bunch of materialism, a bunch of just opulence with things that are not essential to survival. You don't need 20-inch rims on your car. You don't need a Gucci belt. You don't need Balenciaga shoes. You don't, I guess everybody has their own taste, but you don't necessarily have to look away. Beauty can be found in anything. Beauty is not limited to one thing, but some people feel like they have to look a certain way and buy products in order to make themselves more attractive or desirable. But the thing is, in this culture of in this culture of overconsumption, we're essentially creating the criminals, because they want to try to. They may not necessarily have the means. That was one of the things they were saying within a criminogenic society. The wages don't add up, so it's like we feed people these narratives. The wages aren't adding up, so people will do anything to try to get those things, whether it be criminal. I mean, a lot of times it's not all the time. It could be you just breaking your back, working all these hours at your job, or you may do something illegal. You know, because you feel like if I have X, Y, and Z, I'll be happy. I'll have the life that everyone says I should have. But we know this is not true. And they say in a capitalist infrastructure, the point is to keep wages low in order to maximize profit. So essentially, people turn to crime to achieve these false needs, things they really don't need. But let me go. I'm looking for something. Let me check my notes. Yeah, back to the hood. There's a whole industry, $1 billion industry that benefits from criminality. Prison industrial complex, school to prison pipelines. We build schools based off of what? Failed test scores from kids in the 4th grade, because we're able to prognosticate the fact that if this person cannot function within society legally due to their inability to function as an adult, they're going to do something illegal and they'll get locked up, so we can just profit off of the crime. So that's the criminogenic cycle within the capitalist infrastructure. Breakdown in the family. Fathers are incarcerated, mothers are incarcerated, so it leaves a gap. And you leave children that are meant that essentially have to fend for themselves, and in the process of that, they don't necessarily adapt the most humane behaviors or practices. But yeah, I know some people may come in here and be like, well, Mac, people have a choice, yada yada. No, not everybody. Some people are forced to make certain decisions that they really don't want to make. One of the things that they talk about within a criminogenic society is that there's crime on all levels, irrespective of social class. Case in point, you may have white collar crimes, or is it blue collar? I think it's white collar. White collar crimes, where you may have somebody who embezzles money, somebody who does some inside trading. That's white collar. So there's criminality. Let's not. What I'm trying to say is, poverty or being poor doesn't necessarily equate to bad ethics. Doesn't necessarily equate to crime is only done by poor people. No, there are wealthy people who commit crimes all the time, and a lot of times they have the wealth to be able to pull themselves out of that situation. Whereas somebody who doesn't have, because we know the legal system in this country functions off of money. What is it? They say our criminal justice system functions off of money, resources, and advocacy. A lot of times, poor people don't have those things, so they pretty much are forced into an economy. Whereas the powers that be, the justice system, criminal justice system specifically, are profiting off of their poverty, and that said poverty pushes them towards the criminality. So you see how all these moving parts, and how it's very cyclic in nature. It's a cycle. Yeah, and I think I even remember reading somewhere, back to the whole Skinner box thing, and how there are conditions that are laid before people. I think I remember hearing somewhere in Imperial Courts, Dorset Village, Nickerson Gardens. These are apartments, public housing, and apartment/public housing in LA. I remember hearing that they have cameras set up everywhere, and if a gun somehow, like if somebody shoots a pistol, there's some type of sonic device that picks up on the wave, the buckshot, not the buckshot, but that picks up on the sound of the aftermath of the pistol being shot, and that device picks up on the sonic level, and this device notifies the police, and the police come immediately. And I know these things aren't necessarily. I know things like that are. It's a double-edged sword. It could be. You can look at it like those things are created to notify the police so they can protect people, or you can look at it from a business standpoint, where it's like these things are set up, and it's basically to notify the police. Okay, let's go lock somebody up. And I'm not saying everybody does. There are people who need to go to jail. They need to sit and think. But I feel like, we don't, people go to jail and they call it gladiator school or criminal school, and they just come out more educated in their dysfunction. They learn how to function more in their dysfunction. So let's stop that. We know that this, our criminal justice system is not inherently built. It's built on punishment. It's not necessarily built on developing skills and brothers coming out better. Now, I did hear they have some programs where they give people trades, or they let some people get their GED. So I guess there are things at the disposal of that person so chooses to make use of them. But in general, no. It's bad for business for there not to be recidivism. It's bad for business for there to be low levels of crime because it's profitable. It is what it is. Session of MACK Minutes. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. This was the nigga experiment. This everything I said is not just limited to black people. It's really more of though there is a racial dynamic at play here, because I even found out now that a lot of I'm using LA as my focal point, as my reference point. A lot of the hoods in LA are Mexican now. I think they said black people make up maybe 6% of LA's population. So a lot of these hoods that were traditionally black, like there's a lot of Mexican hoods in Watts now. From what I was